The first time I saw the construction crew on my property, I thought I was hallucinating. I'd been away for 6 weeks visiting my daughter in Portland, and when I returned to my ranch in Nevada, there were trucks, big trucks, industrial equipment, and men in hard hats swarming around the eastern edge of my private lake like ants on a dropped popsicle. What the hell? I muttered, slamming my truck in the park and jumping out before the engine had even fully stopped. A man in a yellow vest held up his hand. "Sir, you can't be here. This is an active construction site." I stared at him like he just told me the sky was plaid. "This is my land," I said slowly, enunciating each word. "My lake, my property. What the hell are you doing here?" The man's confident expression faltered. He glanced at his clipboard, then back at me. This is the Silverbrook HOA Renewable Energy Project. We're installing a hydroelectric system. The permits were all approved." Permits? I barked. I didn't give anyone permission to touch my lake. That's when she appeared. Cheryl Henderson, president of the Silverbrook Ranch HOA, emerged from a white SUV like a villain stepping out of smoke. She wore a pantsuit the color of a stop sign and sunglasses that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. "Mr. Donovan," she said, her voice dripping with the kind of condescension usually reserved for talking to toddlers. There must be some confusion. "The only confusion," I shot back, "is why there's industrial equipment on my private property." Cheryl smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was a smile of someone who thinks they've already won. "Your property is within the Silverbrook Ranch development boundaries," she explained, pulling out her own tablet. "According to the HOA bylaws, Section 12, Subsection 4, the association reserves the right to implement community improvement projects that benefit the greater good. This hydroelectric system will provide clean energy to over 200 homes." "I don't live in your HOA," I said flatly. "I bought this land 30 years ago, before your cookie-cutter development even existed." Her smile tightened. "Your property borders our community, Mr. Donovan. The water that feeds your lake originates from the watershed that falls under our jurisdiction." I felt my blood pressure rising. "That's not how property rights work." "Perhaps you should consult with our legal team," Cheryl said, handing me a business card. "In the meantime, construction will continue. We're on a very tight schedule." I looked past her at the massive concrete structure taking shape at the edge of my lake. They'd already poured foundations. Metal frameworks rose like the skeleton of some mechanical beast. They weren't just planning something. They were already building it. "Get off my land," I said quietly. "Excuse me?" I said, "Get off my land. Now, or I'm calling the sheriff." Cheryl's expression hardened. "I assure you, we have every legal right to be here. If you interfere with this project, you'll be the one facing legal consequences." She turned on her heel and walked back to her SUV, leaving me standing there with impotent rage burning in my chest. I did call the sheriff. Deputy Martinez came out, looked at the permits, which somehow seemed legitimate, and basically told me I'd need to fight this in court. "These HOAs," he said sympathetically, "they've got lawyers on retainer, deep pockets. I've seen them do some crazy stuff. They can't just steal someone's water." I protested. "I'm not saying they're right," Martinez said. "I'm saying you need a lawyer. But lawyers cost money, and I was just a retired rancher living on a fixed income. By the time I scraped together enough for a consultation, the hydroelectric system was nearly complete. Massive turbines, control buildings, a whole network of pipes and channels they carved into the eastern shore of my lake. Cheryl stopped by once more during construction, that same insufferable smile on her face. "You should be proud," she told me. "Your lake is now part of something bigger than yourself. Clean energy for the future." "My lake is my lake," I said through gritted teeth. And when this is over, I'm suing you for every penny you've got." She just laughed and drove away. The system went online on a Tuesday. I watched from my porch as technicians ran final checks. By Wednesday, the Silverbrook Ranch newsletter was bragging about their new community-owned renewable energy facility that would reduce dependence on the grid and lower energy costs for all residents. They threw a party, a ribbon-cutting ceremony with local politicians and news cameras. Cheryl gave a speech about sustainability and forward thinking. Nobody mentioned that they'd built their miracle on stolen land. I sat on my porch that evening, drinking whiskey and staring at the mechanical monstrosity that had invaded my peaceful view. The turbines hummed constantly, a low thrum that vibrated through the earth. That's when I had my idea. My lake wasn't fed by the watershed Cheryl had claimed. That was a lie their lawyers had sold to the permitting office. My lake was fed by an underground spring and a creek that ran through my property, a creek I owned lock, stock, and barrel, and more importantly, a creek I could divert. It took me 3 days. I'm 72 years old, but I grew up working this land. I know every inch of it. I spent years managing water flow for my cattle, building channels and berms, and understanding exactly how water moved through my property. So I got to work. I dug a new channel, redirected the creek that fed into the lake, built a diversion that sent the water into a natural ravine on the western edge of my property. Still my land, still perfectly legal, but completely bypassing the lake. By the end of the week, the water level in the lake had dropped 3 feet. By the end of 2 weeks, it had dropped 15 feet. By the end of the month, my lake was a muddy depression with puddles in the lowest spots. And the HOA's hydroelectric system sat there like a beached whale, turbine silent, pipes dry, completely and utterly useless. Cheryl showed up at my door on a Saturday morning, and she wasn't smiling anymore. "What did you do?" she demanded. I took a sip of my coffee. Manage my water rights. Something I should have done a long time ago. You deliberately sabotaged our power system. I redirected water on my own property. I corrected perfectly legal. You might want to check with your legal team. Her face had gone the color of an overripe tomato. That system cost us $3 million. You can't just what? I interrupted. Manage my own natural resources? Make decisions about my own land? Seems to me that's exactly what you did, Cheryl. You just didn't think I'd fight back. "We'll sue you into the ground," she hissed. "Go ahead," I said calmly. "But you might want to consider something first. Your permits were granted based on fraudulent information. You claimed authority over a watershed you don't control. You built on property without proper easements, and you lied to a judge. I'd done my homework during those weeks of digging. My lawyer, the one I'd finally hired, had been very thorough." Cheryl's expression shifted from fury to something closer to panic. "You have 2 options," I continued. "Option 1. You try to sue me. I countersue for trespassing and property damage, and we let the court sort out who lied to whom. Option 2. You dismantle your equipment, restore my property, and we call it even.